looked at as kind of a unit that in many, many ways worked together. And aren't you ashamed of yourself for turning on my professor switch and letting me wander on like this?
It's certainly an interesting civics lesson. I'll be delving into that pretty soon here. So.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, but I'm actually got in front of me here what some of the UN, the United Nations report had expressed.
Okay.
Basically, it's interesting that you have this one side of what the UN is saying, what we've all been saying for years, this is not working, we need to take a new approach. And then you still have the U.S. drug czar. Recently, I was actually asked by a press member from LEAP, the Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, about, with so many reports coming out that this isn't working, with so many people in jail, with the U.S. being the biggest jailer in the entire world, if it's time to take a look at different policies in the nature of change and take a look at different policies in order to be more fiscally conservative as well. And unfortunately, at that time, the U.S. drug czar, Gil Kurlikowski, basically said something to the effect that not only did he, but also President Obama did not have the word legalization in their vocabulary.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering, I think obviously everything is kind of going from a grassroots movement. In fact, Ethan Nadelman of Drug Policy Alliance said, drug policy reform is kind of like trying to turn a tanker, like a steam tanker, because while it may not seem like it's moving, it takes a while to turn. I don't think we're going to see any large-scale policy reform, but in fact, there are so many things. For example, in California, they have a website, taxcannabis2010.org, which people can go to if they have any friends, family, whatever, in California, turn people onto that. Basically, they're going to try to start a statewide tax and regulation program. So,
well, this is a place where I'm going to disagree with you and Ethan. I've heard the analogy of the super tanker that takes miles and miles and miles to execute a turn,
but once it turns,
or a freight train that might take 2 miles to stop after you apply the brakes. I think a better analogy here would be a dam across the river. And you start seeing little leaks, and then the little leak gets a little bigger, and then all of a sudden the whole dam collapses just at once. And I think over the past 6 months, we have seen enough leaks about the idea of legalizing marijuana, at least, that the whole damn dam is going to collapse right in front of our eyes, and we'll probably have legal marijuana, I think, within the year, but that's just a wild-ass guess. I'm told we need to take a break, so we'll be back in a minute or two.
Hi, this is Willie Nelson for NORML. For 30 years, NORML has provided a voice for the millions of Americans who smoke marijuana responsibly. More than 500,000 Americans are arrested each year for smoking pot. These are ordinary citizens like you and me, whose lives and careers are being needlessly destroyed. To learn how you can help, contact NORML at www.norml.org or call toll-free at 888-67-NOR-NL.
Well, we were talking about marijuana legalization, and during the break, Clayton reminded me that there are right now 7 states that have medical marijuana bills of one kind or another in front of their legislatures at the moment. And within the past week or week and a half, Rhode Island, over the governor's veto, passed a law setting up a statewide medical marijuana distribution system that makes 3 states that now have, I guess you could say, from the seed to consumption, legal under state law distribution systems. Mm-hmm. And if Attorney General Holder is good on his word, that means that in those 3 states at least, medical marijuana should start flowing more freely. And if, as the California law requires, they are truly co-ops, the price should come down considerably on them as well. Several other states have fallen through the cracks this year, including Texas, but there are also already referendum motions going forward in 3 or 4 states. Oregon, I believe the state Senate has passed a legalized hemp bill, mm-hmm. which still has to go through the House and the governor. But as I say, I think that this is more than trying to turn a tanker. This is the Jonestown earthen dam that has sprung lots of little leaks, and it's about ready to give way.
This is the tanker, I would say, midway in its turn. Because I still, the point that I was trying to make is I don't think there's going to be any overall federal legislation that's passing. We see that already. Oh my gosh, Barney Frank, I can't believe I almost forgot his name, is every year, perennially, putting up some kind of legislation. And this year he has 2 House bills, H.R. 2835, 29 something, basically a Hinchy-Rohrbacher type of bill that would...
Better than Hinchy-Rohrbacher, because it specifically says recognize the state marijuana programs.
Okay, so it's, all about the medical marijuana, and then another one. Is it legalizing, or not legalizing, but decriminalizing small amounts?
It would, under federal law, remove all penalties for possessions of up to, I think, 3.5 ounces and sales of up to an ounce. Mm-hmm. But that's really a decriminalization because that still leaves the main production chain in the hands of the black marketeers.
Right.
And he has picked up at least 6 co-sponsors on that so far.
Right. He's picked up quite, exactly. There are quite a few co-sponsors for each of them. But what's the actuality, from a pessimistic or a realistic viewpoint, that they're actually going to pass?
Well, Congress passed a cigarette marketing reform. For the first time, they have given the FDA regulation over a recreational drug, but with a specific limitation that they cannot take it off the market. And that one had been a hanging fire in the Senate for well over 10, or in the Congress for well over 10 years. But the interesting thing about that is, for the first time, there's now a model and a precedent to look at for the concept of regulating a legalized recreational drug, as opposed to either trying to ban it entirely or simply letting the floodgates go with an unregulated market. So it's just another straw in the wind, but there are a lot of straws and the wind is getting stronger.
Right. I think if marijuana were to become legalized, that would be a